Welcome to Evansville Tuba Christmas 2020, and this year it's Evansville Newburgh COVID Tuba Christmas. We're outside, and we've had a special thanks to the folks at the Newburgh Allen Amphitheater for their assistance to us. In a normal year at this time, there would be literally hundreds of Tuba Christmases around the world, all going live. This year I counted, I think, 30 live, and then numerous virtuals, and our surrounding states, Kentucky, Illinois, and Michigan, had no live ones at all. I think Missouri had some virtuals, so we are honored to be a live Tuba Christmas, and then we're adding this taping for you later. Again, Merry Tuba Christmas. As you see this year's Merry Tuba Christmas buttons, and I'll show you one of those a little closer later, you will notice there's a little mask on. That's part of the COVID restrictions. We have special plain masks that were made this year to allow us to play. When we talked to the health department in Horry County Health, they like the idea of bell covers to control the flow of aerosols. They like the plain masks. Spring on there. And then allow you to fit your mouthpiece in the hole there so that you can play but still control the aerosols and also give yourself some protection from the aerosols of those around you. If we know we'd have 25 knots of wind off the river, I don't think the aerosols were really a factor. But while we're there, we talked about tubas and euphoniums, so you can see euphonium-wise, this is sometimes called a baritone and is in a similar playing range to the male voice or to a cello, to a tenor saxophone, things in that line. Those are your front row. We had about 6 or 7 on Saturday. And then behind that, we had various sizes of tubas that we'll talk about downstairs. You can see immediately quite a bit larger. The direction it points and the way the buttons are is just a matter of mechanics and plumbing on there. But it's just good for you to see a little closer, because with the masks on and the bell covers, it's a little harder for you to see who our players are this year. When you think about Tuba Christmas, one of the first questions that comes to your mind is why. Professor Emeritus at Indiana University, Harvey Phillips, started the first Tuba Christmas in 1974. He put over 100 tubas on the ice skating rink at Rockefeller Center in New York. That was to honor his teacher and our legendary Bill Bell, kind of the tuba godfather. Bill Bell was also the professor at Indiana University before Harvey Phillips. He played in numerous symphonies, taught at Juilliard, taught at Cincinnati Conservatory, played with the Sousa Band, the Goldwater Band. And Professor Phillips wanted to honor him. Since Bill Bell was born on Christmas Day in 1902, he thought a Christmas celebration would be appropriate. In the same way, he honors all of our tuba teachers and our tuba mentors going back through the years. Harvey Phillips then was a teacher to Jim Allison. Jim Allison started the Evansville Tuba Christmas, which is this year Evansville Newburgh Tuba Christmas, in the mid-'80s, around 84, 85, in there at Washington Square Mall. That Tuba Christmas has gone on to cities all around the world, and this year to Newburgh especially. here in Evansville, we would be at the Barnes & Noble, and we would have between 30 and 40 tuba players. This year, and they would range in age from about junior high up through the mid-80s. This year we had 20 tuba players, and again outside on a rather raw, windy day, very windy, cloudy, rainy, and we were blessed the rain went away in the morning and we were left with the wind. But this year with those 20, we had, I think our youngest were high schoolers and our oldest to brave the weather were in their 70s. And we talked about Professor Phillips promoting the instrument. We talked a little bit about the Tuba's Universal Brotherhood Association, which has become the International Tuba and Euphonium Conference, the ITAC Tuba Euphonium Association. By tuba, we talk about the tuba and also the euphonium or the tenor tuba. We'll talk a little bit more about horns. But just to give you an idea of why those people would come out, the Essential Brotherhood of Tuba Players, we had people that drove in from the Elgin, Illinois area, people from Bloomington, people from Martinsville, and so what would make you drive more than an hour, more than 2 hours, more than 3 hours to come play tuba outside in the wind with your fellow tuba players? It's that brotherhood, that camaraderie that was very important to Professor Phillips and is certainly important to us. This is more than 4 decades of tuba Christmases for me. Jim Allison played in the first ones there in Bloomington. And we've had Myron Westfall, who wasn't able to play this year, who's, I find in the records in the 80s, playing. Jerry Reese, who's sitting just to my right in the pictures of the concert, was the director for several years. Dr. David Smith was the director for the Evansville Tuba Christmas back when he was the Bossy Band director, so that would have been probably late 80s, early 90s. In there, in the Washington Square period, I think they ran 75 at the most, and I don't know where they all came from, but it's just a great brotherhood. Professor Phillips had several aims. Education was certainly one of them, teaching the communities and about the tuba, teaching the public about the tuba, but commissioning music to be written for the tuba was one of his primary projects. He said when he went through college, he had a briefcase to put his music in it, and in it he had one tune, Solo Pomposo. The tuba, being a very young instrument, since about 1834, did not have Mozart and people like that and Bach to write for it. So when we came to Tuba Christmas, there were not tuba carols written. He talked to his good friend Alec Wilder, who composed popular music and movie music, and asked him to set carols for large tuba ensemble, which sounds a little redundant, but again, that was Rockefeller Plaza with hundreds of tubas on ice. So we have here several generations of Alec Wilder's tuba carols. This first one is the first published edition I've seen, and I use the word published a little loosely. This is just compiled and arranged, and it mentions additional material by Paul Harton. I do not know who Paul Harton is at this point in time, but he talks about the first performance in 1974, and if you look at the tops, you will see that they are just typed in. Deck the halls, God rest ye, or God rest you, merry gentlemen, and it's simply wrapped around with some slick heavy paper and stapled, and these are manuscript versions. So in about 1982, about 1988, I think, 77, I take it back. In 77, he came out with these editions that were colored with the nice backs. And if you look at the tops of the tunes now, they're the same manuscript, but with nicely set titles. We Three Kings of Orient, but not of Orient are on there. And he noticed, or we noticed, or brought it to his attention, that tuba players were aging. So then Volume 2 came out. Norland Bewley joined Alec Wilder. Norland was at IU about the same time I was, and is, I believe, in Ohio now. And you'll notice this one does say property of Jim Allison, the late Jim Allison, who began Evansville's Tuba Christmas. Volume 2 added several with Norland and also made them easier for older eyes. Shortly after Volume 2, they said big print would be even better. And you notice they color-coded them. The bass clef edition is in green. The treble clef is in yellow. Tuba players like things very simple, very straight ahead. This most recent edition, still with the Alec Wilder and Norland Bewley selections, was typeset in finale by Jim Williams, a euphonium player who was there at IU at the same time Norland was, and the same time I was, whose son went to University of Evansville, and he traveled back and forth and worked with Professor Phillips in resetting these in an even clearer font, and again, going with big print for older eyes. For those of you that wonder, this first one, the pre-1977 edition, the 1974 edition, shows $2.75 in the corner. Right over there, a note from Jim Allison. This new edition is $25. questions I get a lot as a tuba player is, what's the difference between a tuba and a sousaphone? And if you have them side to side, it's pretty easy to tell. The sousaphone is one you wear, and now is considered more of a marching horn. In the 20s, it was the professional horn. If you look back at the old pictures of the jazz bands, you would see the sousaphone as a professional horn. In the 70s, God bless them, they made it out of fiberglass. So you have to wear it though. Switching to the tuba without knocking the roof down. That's where you pause. You can see right away that the tuba is one you hug as opposed to the one you wear. This is a Grand Rapids York with a recording bell, and if you look in the back row, I think back on the right side of your screen with concert, you will see several recording bell tubas. This is the double B flat, BB flat, which is the largest production size tuba that we have. There are a few experiments, but for all intent and purpose, this is the largest practical size. That takes it down to about 18 feet and 6 inches, give or take. When the next size smaller is the double C tuba, so again about 16 feet and some change of tubing, and it's more of a fashion thing than anything. A lot of people say, would you use a C in the orchestra and the B flat in band, which certainly makes sense when you're playing with strings to play in sharp keys versus playing with instruments in E flat and flat keys. You'll see rotary valves versus piston valves. Again, that's a fashion that changes every 20 or 30 years, and it's just mechanics and plumbing. But the C size, the double C, is just a little shorter than the double B flat. tuba, so you're about 13 feet and change. And with the pistons, you can see and probably hear on there, this is a Holton stamped, but it's York parts similar to the big recording bell, and with the York parts, but either assembled by Holton, stamped by Holton from the 1920s, probably about 1922 on that. The E-flats came before the B-flats and the C's. As they got bigger, that was later in time. So the earlier horns we had were your single basses like the baritone and euphonium. Then they added these, which in E-flat, which were an F, which were a little bigger, and this was the bass horn. And then the C's, double C's and double B-flats were contrabass horns, and they were added later too. euphonium, also the baritones, tenor horns, are all in the 9-foot B-flat size. And as we talked about upstairs, similar to the cello voice part, if in the string family, the tenor sax, the bass clarinet, all those would speak in about the same. And as we said before, the smaller sizes, the E-flat, the baritone euphonium, came before the big double B-flat and double Cs. If you look on the front row of euphoniums in the amphitheater over about the second or third from your left, you will see Drew Steinsaltz on his father's double-belled euphonium. Double-belled euphonium looks about like this. This is a 1903 Con, almost the same age as Bill Bell. The second bell, as you see over here, these were called duplexes, and you could use it as an echo bell, or you could use it as a tenor bell. So if you needed to blend with the trombone section, you would switch to the tenor bell using the fourth valve, the pinky key, on there. Or if you were blending with the euphoniums, the baritones, you would use the big bell up on top. You really can't play them both at the same time, which was a disappointment to me. This is what they talk about in The Music Man, if you've listened to that one, or if your high school's done that. There were double-belled euphoniums and big bassoons, each bassoon having its big fat say. This is your double-belled euphonium. Come to a close, I'd like to say thank you to some very important people. You saw Dr. Steinsaltz from the University of Evansville out in front conducting, and he's been doing that for us for a number of years. We appreciate their hosting. I wore my Evansville shirt for them. We had Zach and Josh Meyer and Zach Schmitz doing our videoing for us. We certainly appreciate them. We had my family doing support both on audio, video, and on registration. We had Jimmy Moore doing registration support. We had Warwick County Health Department, especially Aaron Franz, who assisted us in figuring out what the regulations were and how they applied to us and how we could meet them or surpass them in protecting our people. We had Andrea Balboni with the city of Newburgh, and Andrea was basically our host for the amphitheater and getting all the paperwork taken care of for us on that. We certainly appreciate them. And this lovely new facility has given us a wonderful place to play right on the river, a lovely breeze coming off the river, a really stiff 25 knot wind on some days. We'd like to thank those people especially. And the people we most need to thank are you, the players' families, who are raising the next generation of tubas. So thank you very much, and a Merry Tuba Christmas to you.